Over to you now. A little bit of looking back. Tell us about what's changed and how you go about, again, trying to make this an experience for the girls.
Yeah, I mean, I think recruiting is so sort of all-encompassing, where I think it has been tough in the past. It probably will continue to be tough at times, but I think, like you had mentioned, I mean, for me personally, if it just got to a point recently where it was very, very it got crazy. It got very, very crazy. It sort of steamrolled and took a shape of its own where, like you said, we had very, very young girls, freshmen, in high school making commitments about their future, which is hard to do at that age. I mean, you're asking, someone very young about what they want to major in, and they haven't even, they've barely taken classes for their freshman year yet, or don't even have their license, and we're asking them to decide on their future. And it is a really, really big decision. And both as a player, it's a huge decision, but as coaches, seeing it from this side as well, it's a really big decision on our end as well. And so, I think 10 years ago, it was definitely slower, and we're trying to get back to that point, which I think, these rules that were put in place are basically the same rules that, we had put in place with some extra, sort of tape here and there, if you will, to just make sure, that that a third party can't come in and sort of, help out the process. But, I think for everyone, to slow it down, it was necessary. Just plain and simple. It just got to a point, like I said, that was sort of steamrolling, and getting bigger and bigger, down a hill where it needed to be stopped. And I think both sides of the equation, both the players and us as coaches, needed it, and like I said, I think, this is a really big decision. Like I said, my entire future, here being at USC, like everything very well could have been different, and probably would have been different if I hadn't gone to Northwestern. So, and would I have known where I wanted to go, or would I have said that from New Jersey, would I have been ready to go to Chicago, as a freshman? I don't think so. I don't think I would have been super confident that I could leave, my family and kind of be so far away in the Midwest part of the country if I was a freshman making that decision. But I made it as a senior, fall of my senior year. So everybody is different in terms of when they'll be ready to make that decision. But I think, like I said, for players and families and coaches, creating a relationship and putting the time to research and visit schools and really figure out where, the player wants to go, not just because they've been offered, a scholarship or a spot at a certain school. I mean, there's so many good, great schools out there that I think, and I've always thought this, that it's really important that the player decides against all of these phenomenal schools, choose between the 5 most amazing schools. And if you still choose my school, now I know you really want to come. And when it's hard, which it will be, college is hard, playing D1 lacrosse is hard. And I think when you take the time to make that decision and make an informed decision against really great options, that when those hard times come, which they will, you're more likely to say, okay, this is a hard time, but this is the school that I want to be at. Whereas if you make this decision quickly and just when you're super young, it's very possible that when a hard time comes while you're at school, you immediately say, oh, did I make the right choice? Do I want to be here? Do I want to go somewhere else? And so I think just slowing it down makes a more informed process, and it makes the relationship, you have time to kind of form the relationship with the coaches and the, which I think is really, really important. So I think, overall it was necessary, and, I'm excited to see how it goes, but I think, for both sides, this was the right move, and it allows, like you said, these players to kind of take a deep breath and sort of get back to enjoying playing at these tournaments and not being so stressed that one game and one tournament is going to decide their fate. And so I think it kind of alleviates the pressure for the kids, and allows us to watch kids longer and see how they develop. And I think it's all a very, very good thing.
Absolutely. And you take, again, the idea of if somebody had said to any kid in the last 5 years, if they were in 7th grade and said, hey, someone wants you to play it in fill in the blank, Northwestern, Duke, Denver, just places that, hey, these are some pretty impressive programs. Year to year, you'll see what's going on, but it sure isn't near home, nowhere where the hub of lacrosse is. And, well, first of all, they don't know what they want to do, but they've said, just say yes. You're going to say yes, right? It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what kind of fit it is for your kid. People are saying, you said yes. But as you're saying, you would never do that for a major, like where you're going to study. People would say, well, wait a second. How do you even know if you like the campus? But for some reason, when sports comes into play, it's as if that's going to fix all the other things. I know my oldest daughter, she looked at a lot of schools, and I still laugh because she said that she would only go to a school that had a big-time football on every Saturday, and she's at Boston University that does not have a team, and she loves it. and that's what I tell a lot of people is that's how it's not what we thought. Definitely, 30 years ago, people like myself, let alone 10. So let me ask this. What do you say to players that have invested the time, the passion, they're playing club all through high school, but they're wondering, well, maybe I just really want to put academics first. Don't want to look at D2, D3, NAIA. Maybe I just want to play club. I know what my position is. What would you say to them and to their parents, maybe more importantly?
I think that's great. I think that, there really is a fit for everybody, I think. And so I think it's a great thing to say, okay, I want to play club lacrosse and not play, Division I. I want to focus more on my experience or my academics or anything. I think I would love for people to do whatever they want to do, whether it's play at a high Division I, play D3, play D2, don't play at all. This is supposed to be fun. This sport, it's supposed to be something you enjoy, and whatever that is going to be. And if that's not playing, then that's not playing. But I think the important thing is for all these girls and and boys, but to do what's going to make them happy. And sometimes I think that this process sort of overtakes that, this process or recruiting, quote unquote, became more important than the school you were choosing a little bit. And you sort of got into that, but it did, this recruiting process almost got more important than what you were choosing to do. And so it just, I think, resulted in a lot of people being unhappy. Whereas, it's important to choose what you want to do and be okay with that. And that may be different than what your parents want you to do or what your teammates want you to do or your coaches. But, what is going to make you happy? And you sort of have to go with that, or it's going to be a really tough 4 years.
Oh, I suspect it'll be a tough 24 years, because the path you put yourself on, wondering why you did that. But here, I'm going to play loving but crazy lacrosse parent and say to you, well, I just paid a lot of money for my kid to play club. We traveled a lot to all these hotels. I gave up vacations. I sent to all these camps, $300, $400, $500 a pop. And instead of playing at, amazing lacrosse program A, my daughter has decided she has the nerve to go play club at amazing collegiate program B. Why on earth did I bother spending all this time and money since, for the last 8 years?
Yeah, well, I guess the question is, what is the end result of what is the purpose of playing club? Right. Is it only, and again, and I don't know the answer. I'm not a parent. I don't have a daughter playing club, but I would say that for some people, playing club, when I got to play, I didn't play club lacrosse. I played club soccer, but it was because I wanted to play. Like, I just wanted opportunities to play the game that I really enjoyed playing. It wasn't, and again, this was a long time ago and the culture was a little different, but I kind of agree that there's some times right now that people are playing club with the sole purpose of getting recruited or getting a scholarship or getting an offer at X school, where, I mean, if we go back a little bit, why are we playing club? It should be because you want more opportunities to play the game. And yes, getting in front of college coaches and getting those opportunities is part of it, but it certainly shouldn't be the only reason, in my opinion, because again, like in college, it's hard. It's hard to play. And if the only purpose was to get recruited and to get on a roster, are you really going to be excited about practicing and training for 365 days a year for 17 games at most? I mean, it's a lot of work. So if you're not enjoying playing the game and getting better and enjoying time with your teammates, and the only reason is to sort of get this end result, that's going to be a tough time in college as well.
Yeah, and I feel exactly the same when it comes to choosing majors. When I think back to, we were all making these huge decisions when we were seniors over on your application. So what major are you going to apply for when you go to whatever school? And I remember, a friend of mine, saying, well, I guess, I took all these physics and calculus classes, and so I guess I ought to be an engineer, which was the major I took, but I did that because I liked building stuff. That was really it. And people would do that, and I'd see them around campus, and by middle of sophomore year, they just said, I got to switch out of this. Because they didn't have their heart in it at all. They were probably smarter than I was, but they were miserable in class, probably getting better grades, just because that's not what they wanted to do. And that was, that's terribly simplistic compared to when you bring sports in. And then there's this myth, which maybe you can speak to, which is, well, you're going to get a free ride, right?
Yes, the big myth. Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because when now as a coach, and I've been very, very fortunate. I've won national championships. I've been able to be on staff for national championships. I've played on the U.S. team. I went to 2 World Cups where we won the gold medal. But in term, I'll tell you what, I wasn't on a full ride, not even close. And, like I said, I mean, it's a hard thing because, financially it's a very big discussion with families, obviously in terms of what they can afford and what they can't. But, I mean, I was just grateful, and granted, I didn't have, I had my parents thinking about the finances certainly more than I was, but I was just grateful to have the opportunity, and just so excited that, oh my gosh, this coach, wants me to be on the team and offered me a little bit, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And I also think it got to the point where it was like, I deserve X amount of money. And it just was a very odd way to think, just for me to sort of hear that or get that feeling that it became like that, because, it just didn't matter to me. I didn't care if someone was on more than me or if I had this much or they had that much. It just wasn't a thought. It was, oh my gosh, like I have this opportunity and I'm going to do everything I can to make the most of it. But it was just never about that. And I think it became this myth that, yeah, like everyone's going to get a free ride and, I deserve this much or whatever it is. And it's just not necessarily like that. And, as coaches, you're dealing with a lot. You have a lot of people on the roster that you're all trying to help. There are certain families that need it more than others. And I mean, there's a whole host of things that come into play. And I get it. I mean, school is very expensive. I'm not going to discount that fact. It's very, very expensive and it's very difficult on families. But, it did sort of just become sort of all about the number a little bit, where again, it sort of overshadowed the opportunities that, some of these kids were getting and at times.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate again. I learned to play in the Midwest at, literally sign up. I'm on the club level. My kids got involved, fortunately because of women who were from